Hey kids, it's Mr. Flyers here, hope you're well, and welcome to a brand new tour series here on the channel. This one is going to be absolutely epic. You know where we are probably because you've seen the thumbnail anyway, but we're here in Alaska. Specifically, we're in Anchorage, which is, it feels like the end of the earth, doesn't it?
Yep, we're 4,500 miles from home, just about.
Feels like a long way from Great Missenden. We got here a few days ago, and yesterday here in Anchorage, it was the wettest day since records began.
For August.
At home, it's 35 degrees.
About that.
And a bit of a heat wave. So yeah, it makes you wonder whether we made the right decision. Anyway, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely incredible because this tour is going to not only encompass a bit of Alaska, but we're then on to the Yukon,
Britsh Columbia, down through Glacier National Park to Montana, Idaho, swinging around into Washington and Oregon.
Did we mention Montana?
Yes.
Did we mention Britsh Columbia?
Yes.
Did we mention the Rockies?
That's in Britsh Columbia.
Yeah, but we didn't. Anyway, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. So stick around, stay tuned for the next probably 4 or 5 weeks, and join us on what is going to be, we hope, an absolutely epic tour. All right, we'll speak to you tomorrow when we're on the bike. So, good morning, folks, and welcome to Anchorage in Alaska. Can you believe it? I never thought I'd ride somewhere like this. It's absolutely incredible. Now, as I mentioned in the intro, we're riding in August, and today's actually by far the best day it's been. We've been here about 3 or 4 days so far just to acclimatise. And as you can see, it's a little bit foggy today, but the forecast is that it's going to brighten up, I'm glad to say, because otherwise we won't be seeing any of the cracking scenery that is going to be on this route. Today what we're doing is heading up to a place called Tok. It's a kind of middle of nowhere kind of place, but it does have a motel and a restaurant, so that's why we're heading there. According to the sat-nav, it's about 320 miles to the east of us, and yeah, so it's quite a long old trek for our first day. I think most of it is fully paved though, so it shouldn't be an issue. Right, unfortunately, we've just gone somewhere where our sat-nav doesn't want us to go. So we'll see. Already roadworks, look, it's not just at home that we get that, and it's already sent me the wrong way on the sat-nav, but we'll regain it somehow. Right, detour, let's see if this helps. Distinct smell of cannabis in the air. Last time I mentioned sniffing that, somebody said, how do you know what cannabis smells like? Well, yeah, good point. I've got no answer for that. But it turns out that cannabis is legal here, so it's something that is quite often sniffed, I think. I'm not sure what the priorities are here. I'm guessing it's me. But I'm hoping this will get us around the closed bit. Yeah, looks like it does. So a great start to our nav. However, the navigation on today's route should be pretty flipping straightforward, because once we're out of Anchorage, it's basically one major road heading east. Snip down Concrete Street. What I want is the Glen Highway. Could this be it? Looks like it could be. So as ever, the sat-nav is doing its own thing. We're not quite on the right road, but we're heading in roughly the right spot, and as there are so few roads coming out of Anchorage, I'm hoping eventually we will join the correct one. But yeah, at the moment, a little bit interesting. I think I'll turn the camera off and concentrate on the nav, and I'll speak to you in a moment. Right, so welcome back. A little bit of a sat-nav wobble, but we've sorted ourselves out now. We're heading out of Anchorage on the Alaska Highway 1 towards a place called Palmer. I have to crack my helmet open slightly because I'm steaming up. Quite a lot of moisture in the air here. Which is about 36 miles away. We're definitely going to stop there because we want to fill up with fuel, because this is one of those routes where fuel stops are few and far between. And we may not see another one for 100 miles after Palmer, so we're definitely going to fuel up there. Maybe get some snacks and stuff, because there's not going to be too much once we get out into the more remote parts, which you soon do. We're still in the environs of Anchorage here, which is in itself is an amazing place. Alaska is the largest state in the United States, much to Texas's disgust apparently. And here in Anchorage there are about 375,000 people live, by far the biggest city in Alaska, yet the whole population of Alaska is only around, I think, 750, so it's between a third and half of the people in Alaska live here in Anchorage. And because it is kind of cut off from the rest of the contiguous United States, and it is, there's no doubt about it, despite what this highway looks like, it is a remote part of the world. 95% of everything that comes into the state comes into Anchorage via the port there, which is a particularly deep port. It's something like a 40 feet variance in its tide. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. It's because we did a little touristy bus trip thing yesterday, and we learnt some of this stuff, which was fascinating. Anyway, roads like this are not going to be a feature of this tour, I can tell you. In fact, they're not even going to be a feature of today. Arctic Valley Road. Loving these names. Well, let's hope the sky clears up a bit, because there's not much to see when it's foggy. Hopefully we're going to see some spectacular scenery as the day goes on. Right, I'll speak to you a few miles down the road. I'll tell you a bit more about the tour generally. Haven't gone much further, but had to turn the camera back on because look, suddenly we've got the clouds starting to burn off, and I don't know if you can see on the GoPro, but there are some mountains ahead. It's unfortunate because all around Anchorage there are these amazing mountain ranges on one side and then water on the other. It's a shame that we've missed that out on this bit of the trip today. Oh, it's so nice to be riding a GS again. Those eagle-eyed amongst you will of course spotted I'm on a big BMW R1250GS. It's a rental bike that we rented in Alaska, and we'll talk more about the bike later in the tour, but it's good to be on a familiar feeling machine in a very unfamiliar feeling place. Right, well, we've rolled on just a few more miles up the Alaska Highway 1. So welcome to a gas station in a town called Palmer, which is just about 36 miles north of Anchorage. So we successfully managed to get our way out of the Anchorage area, but after our little satellite wobble. But what you can see now, we've got out of town. Just look at this weather now. Blue skies all around, absolutely fantastic weather. Unfortunately, when the camera died just now doing the usual GoPro stuff, we were starting to see some spectacular scenery which I couldn't show you, but I'm convinced, as we've got about another 300 miles to do, there's going to be some amazing scenery to show you as this trip carries on. So Mrs. Fly's just in getting us some snacks to make sure that we've got some food and some hydration for this long leg, because there's going to be not much other chances to fuel up on this trip, or certainly today. And yeah, and some water. We filled the bike with petrol as well. It only took, you know, a couple of litres, but it's best to keep the things topped up. Oh, let me just take this opportunity to show you the bike. As I say, it's a rental bike that we got in Anchorage, and we're here on a tour with Motorrad Tours, the people that I went to Norway with. So I stuck some stickers on, so it's clear that we're on the tour. And as you can see, it's an R1250GS, and this is sort of an American spec, which is much more basic spec than we have at home, actually. Normally at home, you don't see basic GSs, do you? This one has got, as you'll see, doesn't have the electronic suspension. Annoyingly, it doesn't have cruise control either down here. Sat-nav's in a slightly different spot. So a few little things to be getting used to on the bike, but the bike's running absolutely fine. It's nice to be on a familiar platform again. It's a long time since we went touring on the GS. Anyway, I can see she's coming back now. I'll get girded up again, and hopefully this time we'll get to show you some of these incredible vistas on the route. Oh, Mrs. Fly's back with a snackage. Right, what you got us?
Some nuts and dark chocolate, the healthiest thing.
Yeah, good.
Packet of Lay's, because...
Perfect, you've got to do that.
And an extra large Kit Kat.
And how much are we talking for those?
This is emergency only.
Yep.
$12.
Is that a good price? $12 for? It is if you're out in the boondocks and you've got nothing to eat. So
yeah,
we'll be pleased with that. Right, back on the bike. Alrighty, we are filled up, ready to go again. So our next stop is going to be a coffee stop at a place called Sheep Mountain Lodge, which is about an hour's ride from here. Let's just show you some of the scenery on the way though. What an absolutely glorious day. Check out those mountains over there. Right, got to remember to ride on the right again. I've got my trusty ride on right sticker on here. Back onto the Alaskan Highway 1. Oh, now this is properly fresh air. It feels like it's doing good to you. Oh, Glen Allen is on the signs at 141 miles down this road. We have to turn left there. That's the one extra turn we have to do between here and Toke, so we absolutely do not want to miss that one. Right, it's good to get out the city. We enjoyed visiting Anchorage. It's one of those places to tick off your list, because it's not somewhere necessarily you have on your sort of tourist list of places to go, is it? But when you get the chance to go to Anchorage, you're not going to say no, are you? So it was great to go, but having been in that relatively small city for a few days, it's in the rain as well, it's just so nice to get out here in this vastness. Snow-peaked mountains ahead, mountains all around us, properly fresh air, and a Macadam's on the left. Brilliant. So this trip is a bit of a mega trip, of course, and From now on, basically, we are heading south. So Anchorage, well, a little bit north today, up to this junction, and then we cut east, and then from then on we go south into Canada and the Rockies and back into the US. So the weather should be warming up the whole time. So this is as far north as we come, and I was just intrigued to see how far we are from the Arctic Circle, where I went before on that previous trip that I did with Motorrad Tours. And actually we're not that far from the Arctic Circle. It's a few hundred miles though. We're about the same latitude as Helsinki here, a little bit north of Oslo, that sort of latitude, just to get your head around it. But this is what it looks like in August. Pretty nice. Oh yes, this is looking more like it. It's going to be a few of those look at that type moments here, and this is starting to feel like it might be one. As ever, the GoPro will flatten this out, but mountains ahead look absolutely cracking, and there's still some snow on them, even though it's the height of summer. Presumably it stays like that all the time. On that tour I mentioned earlier that we did in Anchorage a couple of days ago, the tour guide mentioned that I think something like 85% of Alaska is under permafrost. So even though it looks sunny and warm, and indeed does get warm occasionally, not that we've experienced it, there's always that underlying Arcticness. I do love the US. I haven't been here for about 3 or 4 years since I last came on a family holiday down to San Diego and all that game. An amazing country of just incredible differences in landscape. But the thing I really like about it are things like the trucks. Check that out. It's just a Ford F1250 ahead of us. Just big powerful engine. Love it. Everything about the US is over-engineered. Even their toilet flushing mechanisms are way more over-engineered than they are at home. And I just like that. Is that wrong? I'll tell you what is wrong though. Why is it in the US they have those toilet doors when you go to a public convenience where the doors are so high and they have these big gaps in the doors? What is that all about? You don't get that in the UK unless you go to Costco, and you guessed it, a US shop. Anyway, I digress. Let's get on with the bike trip. Oh, how good is this to be back on the open road. Very little traffic about, fresh air, blue skies, snow-capped mountains ahead. I better slow down because they're into speed limits here apparently. See, double traffic fines, so and the speed limit is 55, so let's make sure we don't go over 55. Not that I can see too many smokies around, but I'd hate to get myself some sort of traffic fine, and I value my licence too much. So just to tell you a bit about how this tour is working, as I say, it's a Motorrad tour, so it's one of these organised things. And there are in fact, I think something like 18, 19 of us, 10 bikes or something on the tour. But the great thing about Motorrad Tours is you don't have to all ride off as a group. You can do that if you want to, and there will be some points in this tour over the next few weeks, I imagine, where we do ride with some of the group. But if you want, you can just make your own way. Everything is pre-set for you in terms of routes. Again, you don't have to follow them, but I mean, you do wise to do so because those guys know the routes, you know, they know the best places to go. And when you're in these wilderness places, there are a few roads anyway. But before I came, I was sent a little SIM card to pre-upload all the routes into my GPS. I've got a printout on my tank bag thing here with where the turns are. Should really concentrate on the riding as well as talking. So all the stress is taken away. Oh, and also they send you proper maps as well, road maps that I've got in the top box at the back with all the routes marked on. We'll show you those a bit later because we'll show you the route that we've ridden today, just to give you an idea of where we've been and where we're going. So you're well prepared. So riding on your own like we are here, the rest of the group is on the road ahead of us. Might be one or two behind as well, I'm not sure. And we all know what hotel we're going to tonight. We'll just meet up there. Got a slow board. Thank you, madam. What a nice smile from the slow board lady. You don't get that at home. Yeah, so did I. Oh, perhaps that's perhaps that's why she smiled. Me and Mrs. Fly waved at her. Fancy stand. What's on the other side of his slowboard? Do you think there's a fast on there? Let's have a look. Can't see in my mirror. What does it say? Stop. Okay, it's a stop and slow. That makes sense. Hey, I'm digging this RV in front of us. So when I looked at the map and saw that basically there's just one turn from now on before we get to Toke, one junction, I thought that is going to be a bit of a tedious ride. But just look at this road. Big sweeping corners, amazing views. As my mate Ken would say, what's not to like? Hello Ken, if you're watching, by the way. So I was talking to our tour guide yesterday about what to expect on this trip, and his name is Alf, by the way. I'm sure we'll meet him later on. And he was saying he thinks Alaska is like Norway on steroids, which is incredible, because my one of my favourite places to ride, of course, is Scotland, and I always think of Norway as like Scotland on steroids. Well, if this is that to the power of 1 again, or 2, oh god, let's not get into maths, then we've got a trip to look forward to. I mean, already on this, you know, we're barely, what, 50 miles out of Anchorage, and just look at this scenery, absolutely stunning. Check out this river to our left. Oh, it looks like some of our compatriots might have stopped up here for a picture. Perhaps we'll do the same. Time for a thumbnail, maybe. Are these our compatriots? Maybe not. We'll still have a picture. You know, these don't look like our guys, but let's see what we can do here. Right, so I couldn't resist just stopping and showing you this little view here. This is what's called the Matanuska River, apparently. Check this out. Pretty cool, eh? Right, back on the bike. Right, so that was the Matanuska River light aircraft flying over there. What a cracking place to go flying over. Incredible. Mind you, they got mosquitoes the size of red kites here, so I'm going to get moving. Nothing coming. Oh, it's good to be back on the road again. Marvellous. Right, 58 miles to that coffee stop. Yeah, now if you're one of the millions of people that follow my YouTube pal Norla's channel, Itchy Boots, then you'll know that she's recently been to Alaska. And her videos are something to behold, aren't they? Mine are going to be slightly different on this trip. There ain't going to be so much dirt riding, that's for sure. Not with Mrs. Flyer on the back. Although we do actually have some dirt trails to contend with on this trip, so that's going to be quite interesting. But I don't think we got any of those today. I think tomorrow we might have some of that. So more of that tomorrow. Just saw on the sign 259 miles to Toke, so we know we're on the right road. You can't really get it wrong here because there are so few roads, but if you're heading the wrong direction on the one road, that's not a good thing. Amazing colour, this river here. It's sort of a muddy colour, whereas I'm used to seeing in previous trips to places like Canada a more turquoise looking river. We'll see those later on this tour when we go to the Rockies, but it's interesting to note that the logs coming down there, which presumably that river is used for moving logs. Well, just check out the vastness of this place. This state is just massive. Of course, Alaska was famously purchased from the Russians in about 1867, something like that. At the time it was known as Russian America, which is incredible to believe these days, isn't it? But they bought it for, I think, about $7.5 million, which worked out to something like 2 cents an acre. And even at that incredible rate, people at the time, Americans, thought that they'd been sold a dud by Russia. Why on earth would you want a bit of frozen land like Alaska? Well, of course, roll on a few years and they struck gold in the area, and suddenly Alaska became a very valuable resource. So it turned out that was a good investment after all. Alaska being one of those states that is very rich in all sorts of natural resources, notably, of course, gold and coal as well, and logs. So that turned out to be a pretty darn good purchase. At that time, Alaska was just an American territory. It wasn't actually one of the United States. That didn't happen till a lot later. And that was actually post-war, 1959, I believe, that Alaska became one of the United States. Of course, not one of the contiguous, because it is separated from the rest of the United States by Canada, which I just find incredible. I don't know why I find that incredible, I just do. And tomorrow we will be crossing the border into the Yukon, which is Canada, of course. This is definitely going to be one of those trips where you get sort of viewed out, where you just see these spectacular things like this mountain ahead, river on the side, and you just get used to it because you're seeing it all the time. And then by the time we get home, it's like, did I really do that? Real nice, real nice. Wowza. What an amazing place. Just check out these rock formations up to my left here. Wow. Absolutely stunning. Got the river down to our right, and then to our left and above, these amazing rock formations. What a beautiful place. Surprisingly busy with traffic though. I mean, I suppose it is this is the main highway to get you to Toke, so there's not really any other options for cars and trucks, but we've not really been riding on here much without being behind at least one car, which has surprised me a little bit. Lovely spot. These roads are way better than I expected them to be in terms of their surface and their twistiness as well. I thought they were going to be just straight roads, but in fact they got these big sweeping corners which are lovely on the GS, and then these amazing views that you get every now and then. Just check that out. A few clouds still clinging to the tops of the mountains. Temperature now is 57 degrees Fahrenheit, so what's that, about 14-15 degrees centigrade in UK money. We were debating for a long time what sort of kit to bring, because as we head south we're expecting it to get a lot warmer. We flew into Anchorage via Seattle, and when we landed at Seattle in the evening, it was about 6:30 in the evening, it was still 90 degrees Fahrenheit, pretty hot in other words. And then we had another flight 3.5 hours north to get us to Anchorage, and when we got out there, chucking it down with rain and about 10 degrees. So quite a variance in temperatures we're expecting to get on this trip. We're going to be covering many thousands of miles, so at the moment we're fully ruckered up, our proper kit on. We've got you know, many layers, a base layer, a fleece, and personally I'm just about right, but I imagine as the tour goes on we are going to be shedding some layers. There's a glacier just to our right, so I don't know if you can see it through the trees now, probably not, and the church there was just called Glacier View Bible Church, an appropriate name. Hopefully we might get another glimpse of it just down here. Let's have a look to our right as we get into the gap. There we go. Possibly can't see it on the GoPro, but down that valley is the massive end of a glacier. Wow, that is amazing. That is I've seen a few glaciers in my time in the Alps and places, but that is quite amazing. You can clearly see how it's shaping the landscape coming down there, and we are going to be seeing a few more glaciers on this trip as well. There we go, there's a great view of the glacier now. Just going to pull in here, see if we can get a snap or two. Well, that's something you don't see every day. Wow, the Matanuska Glacier apparently. I'm going to get my phone out and see if I can get a snap. Gotta love the trucks here. Just let the traffic go. Right, check out the Matanuska Glacier. On the GoPro, you probably won't see it very well, but take it from me and Mrs. Flyer. It's pretty spectacular, isn't it, Karen? It's amazing. Look at that. Right, back on the bike.